Welcome to another quiet night. Tell me, where are you listening from? And what time is it right now, in your part of the world? It's beautiful, isn't it? How night feels different, depending on where we rest. If this is your first time here, remember to subscribe so you won't miss the next bedtime journey through history. Now, take a deep breath. Let the stillness settle around you. The worries of the day can wait. Tonight, we drift back in time to a river that carried the breath of life, a river that shaped the rhythm of a world now lost, yet never truly gone. Close your eyes. Listen to the whisper of water softly against the reeds. The story begins here, by the Nile.
The sun has slipped beyond the western dunes, and the world grows soft beneath a veil of indigo. Along the river's edge, the air cools slowly. The sand, warm from the day, exhales its last breath of heat. Torches flicker on narrow paths that weave between mud-brick homes, their light trembling like fireflies caught in the still air. Somewhere, a jar lid closes, and the scent of crushed grain drifts from a courtyard oven. Children's laughter fades, replaced by the hush of the night watch. The city exhales together, as if all of Egypt remembers to rest. In the distance, beyond the palms, the Nile moves in its ancient rhythm. It does not hurry, it does not pause. The water folds and unfolds beneath the moonlight, a silver ribbon connecting villages, dreams, and prayers. Boats drift quietly, carrying oil lamps that float like small stars. Each flame tremble upon the surface, a mirror of the sky above, where the constellations of gods and animals shimmer in perfect silence. Listen closely. You can almost hear the soft scrape of the oar, the distant bleat of a goat tethered for the night, the hush of linen as a woman folds tomorrow's garments. This is Egypt breathing in the dark. Inside one of the homes, a potter wipes clay from his hands. He sets aside a new vessel, its surface still damp, and dips his fingers into cool water. The clay bears faint fingerprints, a mark of time, a whisper of craft passed from father to son. He looks toward the small shrine in the corner, where a small oil lamp burns before an image of Taweret, protector of home and sleep. He murmurs a short prayer, soft, rhythmic, unhurried, and the flame sways as if answering. Outside, a priest walks slowly along the embankment, his white linen robe catching the faintest trace of starlight. He carries a staff wrapped in papyrus cords. Every step echoes against the stones. He stops beside a pool and lowers a bowl of perfumed oil. The scent of myrrh and lotus drifts across the water. It mingles with the smell of wet earth, a fragrance older than memory. Farther downriver, a fisherman secures his small reed boat. He ties it to a wooden post worn smooth by years of current. In his hands, the rope is rough but familiar. He glances upward, the stars reflected perfectly in his eyes. He has learned to read them like words. The bright one near Orion tells him of coming floods. Another whispers of calmer tides. To him, the sky is not far away. It is a map, a companion, a song. The frogs begin their chorus. Their voices overlap, soft, rhythmic, endless. A heron stirs near the shallows, its long neck bent toward its own reflection. Somewhere in the reeds, a torch sputters and fades, leaving behind a thread of smoke that curls into the cool night. Imagine the torchlight flickering on ancient walls. The hieroglyphs carved there catch each pulse of flame. Stories of kings, of harvests, of prayers carried by the river. Each symbol glows and disappears again, like memory itself. A guard leans on his spear near the temple gate. He watches the moon rise over the pylons. For a moment, even he forgets duty. The silence wraps around him like linen. Behind him, in the great court of the temple, priests extinguish the last of the lamps. One by one, each flame bows out, leaving the scent of oil and stone. The temple breathes in darkness, its columns towering like sleeping giants. Only the sound of the Nile remains, a steady heartbeat beyond the walls. Across the river, in a small orchard, a young scribe unrolls his papyrus. By the dim light of the moon, he sketches a few lines describing the day's flood level. His reed pen scratches faintly. He writes of the current, the measured cubits, and then pauses. A breeze passes over the orchard, carrying the scent of figs and soil. He lifts his head and simply listens. In that quiet moment, knowledge feels like worship. The rhythm of ink and breath, of river and pulse, all become one. Through every village along the Nile, from Delta to Thebes, the same lullaby hums beneath the night. The farmers sleep beside their jars of grain. The weavers rest their hands. Cats prowl along the walls, their eyes catching stray light. And above all, the stars watch in their eternal patience. The sky is a scroll written by the gods. Each constellation tells a secret, not loud enough to wake the world, but clear enough for those who still their hearts to listen. Time drifts, the night deepens, the Nile glows faintly under the moon. Somewhere, a distant drumbeat marks the hour, slow, measured, almost tender. And as you listen now, you begin to feel the rhythm too, the rise and fall of your breath, the calm between each word, the same gentle motion that has guided this river for thousands of years. The world beneath the stars remains unchanged, still, patient, everlasting. And you, like those who once stood by the Nile, stand quietly within that timeless hush, watching the water, hearing the silence, feeling the night settle, softly, gently, calmly.
The city glows softly against the sea. Alexandria, the jewel of the northern coast. Its harbor reflects the moonlight like polished silver, and the great Pharos lighthouse burns steadily in the distance, a guardian flame watching over sailors returning home. The air tastes of salt and jasmine. A gentle wind moves through the colonnades, whispering across marble floors and olive trees planted near the gates. Night here feels alive, not with noise, but with memory. Beneath the shadow of the lighthouse, small boats rock against wooden docks. The fishermen speak in low voices, counting the night's catch under torchlight. Fish scales glitter on their hands like tiny stars.
One man hums an old song, slow, rising, falling, the same tune his father sang before him. Somewhere behind them, a cat slips between amphora and ropes, its eyes glowing in the dark like amber lamps. The sound of waves against the hulls becomes rhythm itself, a heartbeat for the sleeping city. Every sound carries centuries. Farther inland, along the main avenue, the marble streets still shimmer with the heat of the day. Steps echo beneath the long stone arcades. Lanterns hang from carved beams, their light warm and soft. Shadows of passing figures stretch and fade against the walls. A scribe walks slowly toward his home, his sandals brushing dust from the stones. Under his arm, a bundle of papyrus scrolls, notes from the Library of Alexandria. He has spent the day copying texts from philosophers and poets. Now he carries them as if they were fragile dreams. He passes under an arch where vines hang heavy with night flowers. The scent of myrtle and honey fills the air. He breathes deeply, and for a moment, he forgets the weight of words. Beyond the scribe's path, the library rests in silence. Columns rise like pale ghosts beneath the moon. Inside, oil lamps burn low, their light pooling on wooden tables. A few scholars remain, their silhouettes bent over maps of stars and treatises of medicine. The faint crackle of papyrus, the quiet turning of a page, and the murmur of ink flowing from reed pens. To them, night is not for sleep, but for thought, for wandering across ideas as others sail the sea. Knowledge here feels sacred. Each whisper of parchment is a prayer to eternity. Outside the library walls, the city hums at its own slower rhythm. Merchants cover their stalls, guards walk in pairs. A baker sprinkles flour on a stone slab, preparing dough for the dawn. And above it all, the lighthouse flame turns slowly, washing the harbor with circles of light. At the edge of the market district, a young girl sits beside a basket of figs. Her mother hums a lullaby while counting coins. The girl listens, eyes half closed, head resting on her arm. The night wraps them both in warmth and dust. Nearby, a water carrier refills his jars from a cistern, the sound echoing deep and cool. Every drop feels precious. Behind the market, a narrow alley opens toward a courtyard where lamps flicker. A musician plays a slow tune on a lyre. The strings shimmer like starlight. A few neighbors gather quietly, swaying time with the melody. No applause, no words, only gentle smiles and the sound of sandals on stone. The city breathes in harmony. Imagine walking through those streets under the moon's pale glow. Every doorway holds a story. Every torch casts a memory. Somewhere a poet leans from his balcony, watching the sea, searching for the right words to describe this piece. He dips his brush into ink and writes the simplest thing he can think of. The sea sleeps, and so do the hearts of men. Then he sets the papyrus aside and lets the ink dry by moonlight. As the night deepens, the city grows quieter still. The sounds of the harbor fade. The lighthouse flame burns brighter against the dark. Somewhere near the gardens of the royal quarter, a fountain murmurs softly, its water gliding over marble shaped like lotus petals. The scent of roses drifts through open corridors. Curtains move gently with the sea breeze. In one chamber, a scholar traces the outline of constellations on a tablet of wax. He studies the heavens not for answers, but for peace. Each star feels like a companion, a reminder that even in silence, the universe still speaks. The priests of Serapis walk along the causeway, their lanterns swinging, their prayers blending with the sound of distant waves. They pause at the shore to gaze at the lighthouse. It stands tall, stone, fire, and faith bound together. They bow their heads. To them, it is not just a beacon for ships. It is a symbol of balance between earth and sky, light and shadow. The night accepts their silence, and for a while, even the sea seems to listen. The stars are bright now. Their reflections dance across the harbor water. You can almost hear the soft clinking of masts, the sigh of ropes, the creak of wood as the tide shifts. Somewhere in the distance, a gull cries once, then nothing. The whole city feels suspended, as if time itself pauses to breathe. And in that stillness, you understand why Alexandria was called the City of Light. Not because of its torches or its fire, but because even in shadow, it never stopped seeking illumination. Slowly, softly, calmly, gently, the night holds its last breath.
Dawn has not yet touched the horizon, but the market by the Nile stirs before the sun. The air still holds the cool breath of night. Mist curls over the riverbanks like pale silk, and from somewhere across the water, a lone heron glides, its wings cutting through the quiet like thought itself. In the half-light, traders begin to wake. They move softly among baskets and jars, their voices low, their laughter gentle. Torches burn low at each stall, their glow warm and golden against the clay walls. The scent of grain, fish, and honey mingles in the air, the perfume of livelihood. As the first ripple of light touches the eastern sky, the city begins to hum again. Fishermen carry woven nets to the shore. Potters set their wares beside the path. Vessels shaped for wine, for oil, for hope. Women unwrap linen cloths filled with figs and dates, their hands moving with calm precision. No shouting, no haste, only rhythm. The steady rhythm of hands and trade, of breath and purpose. Coins clink softly in the shadows. A young boy runs between the stalls, his bare feet leaving patterns in the dust. He stops near a spice merchant's table, eyes wide at the colors before him. Cinnamon, saffron, myrrh, dried petals of blue lotus. He inhales deeply, the scent both sharp and sweet. The merchant smiles, presses a single petal into the boy's hand, and whispers, "For good dreams." Above them, the sky grows pale gold. Sunlight spills slowly across the harbor roofs. The mist lifts from the river, revealing boats heavy with reeds and amphora. Sailors call to one another softly. The sound echoes between the stone walls of the quay. An old man sits nearby, repairing a fishing net. His hands move like memory. He hums an old tune, a song of the flood, of planting, of patience. Each knot he ties feels like a prayer. Each thread a story passed down. Behind him, the temple bells of Isis ring faintly, announcing morning offerings. The market stills for a heartbeat. Heads bow, lips move, and even the wind seems to pause in reverence. As day rises, the market becomes a tapestry of sound and scent. The rhythmic beat of pestles crushing herbs, the
the rustle of papyrus scrolls exchanged between scribes, the faint trickle of water poured from one vessel to another. Every gesture part of something greater, a quiet music of work and gratitude. Among the stalls, a young woman sells linen dyed with indigo. The fabric catches light like calm water. She folds each piece carefully, fingers brushing against smooth thread. Her brother beside her arranges bracelets of copper and shell. When a traveler from the Delta stops to look, they greet him not with salesman's urgency, but with stillness, the peace of people who know that time moves like the Nile, slowly but surely. Imagine walking through it all, the hum of conversation blending with the river breeze, the shimmer of dust in the morning light. Somewhere nearby, a baker lifts fresh loaves from a clay oven, steam rising in soft curls. He brushes each with honey. The scent fills the air, warm, golden, inviting. Someone laughs quietly. Someone bargains kindly. Someone hums to a child half asleep on her shoulder. This is the heart of Egypt's day. And yet, the calm remains. Even in motion, the world feels unhurried. At the far end of the market, a caravan from the desert arrives. Camels kneel slowly, their loads wrapped in woven cloth. Inside, incense, copper tools, lapis lazuli from far away. Men in linen robes greet the newcomers, their eyes shining in the sun. They exchange not only goods, but stories. Tales of rainless lands, of oases hidden by dunes, of stars that guide the way when all else disappears. One man holds out a carved figurine of Horus, its wings outstretched. The merchant from the city runs a hand across its surface, the stone cool, perfectly balanced. They nod in silence. Trade here is not merely exchange, it is communion. The heat rises slowly. The Nile surface glimmers like molten bronze. Birds wheel above, calling to one another across the sky. By now, the sounds of the market blend into a gentle chorus. Cloth brushing against wood, bronze tapping against clay, laughter weaving through the wind. A scribe sits beneath the shaded awning, recording transactions on a strip of papyrus. He notes each measure, each coin, but pauses to look up at the river. He sees the boats glide by, their sails like white wings. He writes a single line in the margin. The Nile gives, and we remember. Time drifts again. The morning deepens, but the calm does not fade. For in this world, even trade, even labor, moves with grace. The people of the Nile do not fight the current. They follow it, trusting that what flows out will return again. A rhythm as old as the river itself. The wind shifts. The torches burn lower. The hum of the market slows to a sigh. Somewhere, a bell rings softly from the temple once more. The sound ripples through the air, mingling with voices, footsteps, and the scent of baked bread. And as you listen, you realize that beneath every whisper, every transaction, there is something deeper, the quiet pulse of gratitude. By noon, the market will shimmer with light. But for now, in this tender moment between night and day, everything glows gently. The air still cool, the hearts still slow, and the river, ever patient, ever wise, flows beside it all. Slowly, softly, calmly, gently, the world begins again. The night has returned once more. The air over the Nile grows cool again, and the moon rises slowly from the eastern horizon, a silver crown upon the darkened sky. In the distance, the temple stands silent and vast. Its walls, carved with stories of gods and pharaohs, catch the light of 100 small torches that flicker like breathing stars. Every shadow seems alive, moving gently across stone and sand. The priests begin to gather. Their robes, white and still, rustle softly as they walk. Each step is deliberate, each sound sacred. They carry small vessels of oil and incense. The air fills with fragrance, sweet myrrh, crushed lotus, and the faint trace of cedar. It is a scent that belongs only to the night, a perfume of devotion. The temple courtyard glows under the moonlight. The great columns rise like trees of eternity, each one carved with prayers to the gods of the sky and river. At the heart of the courtyard, a pool reflects the stars above. The surface trembles, as if heaven itself bends to look at its own reflection. A priest kneels beside the water. He whispers words older than memory, words passed from mouth to mouth, from soul to soul. The sound is not loud. It drifts through the air like wind through reeds, soft, endless, alive. Inside the sanctuary, the walls glow with torchlight. Gold inlays shimmer faintly, catching the movements of the priests. At the far end stands the statue of Isis, the goddess of magic and motherhood. Her face serene, her arms open as if to gather the night itself. The high priest approaches slowly. He carries a small bowl of milk and honey, an offering of purity. He places it before the statue and lowers his head in silence. For a long moment, nothing moves, only the sound of the torches, the hiss of their slow burning, the murmur of the Nile outside. Then, softly, the chanting begins. It starts with one voice, low and steady, a hum that seems to come from the earth. Another joins, then another, until the whole temple vibrates with quiet harmony. The chant rises and falls, like the breath of the river itself. Hail to you, life that flows eternal. Hail to you, moon that watches without end. The sound becomes light, weaving through the air like threads of silver. The torches flicker, their flames bowing to the rhythm. Outside, the breeze stirs the papyrus leaves. Each rustle seems to echo the chant. Even the stars appear to listen. Imagine standing there, the stone cool beneath your feet, the scent of incense surrounding you. You look upward and see the ceiling painted with blue and gold, a vision of the heavens themselves. Every symbol, every color, tells of life, death, and the promise of return. The priests raise their hands. The chant deepens. It is not a call for miracles, but a song of gratitude, for water, for grain, for breath. And as the voices blend into one, the air itself seems to shimmer. Faith becomes sound, sound becomes silence. Outside the temple, villagers gather quietly near the outer walls. They do not enter, but they listen. A mother holds her child close. A farmer removes his sandals and stands barefoot on the sand. For them,
The prayer belongs to everyone, not just to those who serve the gods. Some close their eyes and murmur along, others simply watch the torches burn against the night. The glow reflects on their faces, turning each expression into something timeless. The temple's shadow stretches far across the desert floor. It touches the river's edge, as if the gods themselves reach toward the water. Deeper within the sanctuary, a small group of priestesses tend to sacred lamps. They move with quiet grace, pouring oil drop by drop into each vessel. When one flame fades, another is lit from its spark. The chain of light never breaks. A young priestess pauses beside the altar. She looks at the goddess's face, then at her own reflection in the golden offering bowl. For a moment, she feels both small and infinite, a heartbeat within eternity. She whispers a simple thought: "May the river remember us." Hours pass, the chant slows, turning into hums, then into silence. The torches burn low, ash drifts softly through the air. The high priest steps forward once more. He pours the last of the milk into the sacred pool. The liquid spreads, white upon black, like moonlight dissolving into water. He bows his head, and the others follow. The ritual ends not with grandeur, but with peace. Beyond the temple walls, the Nile continues its endless motion. Its surface mirrors the stars, hundreds of points of light dancing upon the current. The sound of the water blends with the final echo of prayers, a hymn carried far downstream. The wind moves softly through the reeds. The moon lingers above the horizon, and all of Egypt, from village to desert, sleeps beneath its silver gaze. Slowly, softly, calmly, gently, the night exhales once more.
The morning drifts in quietly, a pale gold mist resting above the water. The Nile glows soft and warm, its surface brushed by the first light of the sun. Along its banks, life begins again, not with noise, but with rhythm. From the small mud brick homes near the shore, thin trails of smoke rise into the clear air. The scent of baking bread mingles with that of wet earth and lotus. A rooster calls once, then the world grows calm again. Each sound gentle, each movement slow, as if the whole village awakes in prayer. A woman steps into the courtyard. She wears a linen robe, pale and cool against her skin. In her hands, a basket of grain. She kneels beside a round stone mill and begins to grind. The stones move in circles, steady, ancient, familiar. Each turn a heartbeat, each sound a pulse of time. Nearby, her daughter gathers kindling for the small clay oven. She hums softly, a tune passed down from her grandmother. It is not a song of labor, but of peace, the kind sung when the world feels whole. The rhythm of the stones, the hum of the child, the hiss of the fire. Together they create the music of morning. In the next courtyard, a man repairs a fishing net. He sits cross-legged in the sand, his hands browned and sure. The net glitters faintly where it catches the sun. He ties each knot with care, then lifts his head toward the sound of the river. Boats drift by slowly, sails billowing with the soft breeze. He knows their rhythm,
The gentle slap of water against hull, the sigh of wood expanding in warmth. It is the language older than words. His son appears beside him, holding a clay jug filled with fresh water. They share a drink in silence. Then the father places his hand on the boy's shoulder and smiles. The boy grins back, his eyes bright as the river itself. Beyond the village walls, the fields shimmer with dew. Farmers begin to move through rows of barley and flax. The earth beneath their feet is cool, softened by the night's moisture. They carry wooden hoes and curved sickles, their shapes worn smooth by years of touch. A group of women gather near the irrigation channels. They lift water with shaduf poles, balancing buckets of clay, swinging them in rhythm with the chant of work. Each pole of the pole rises and falls, like the breathing of the land. No one hurries. In Egypt, even labor knows patience. Overhead, ibis birds sweep low, their wings gleaming white in the sun. Their cries echo faintly, a sound both lonely and beautiful. Inside one of the houses, a pot of lentils simmers over a small fire. The smell fills the air, earthy, comforting. Children sit in a corner, playing with carved toys of wood and clay. A cat curls beside them, its tail flicking lazily. The eldest boy traces lines in the dust with a reed. He copies shapes his father once showed him, the simple hieroglyphs for sun, river, bird. He doesn't yet know their full meaning, but he knows they are sacred, symbols of what endures. His mother watches, smiling. She dips a cup into the pot, tastes it, and adds a handful of herbs. The smell deepens. She hums again, and the tune floats beyond the doorway, mingling with the sound of flowing water. Imagine standing there, in that courtyard of warmth and shadow. You feel the cool clay under your feet, hear the faint ripple of the Nile beyond the walls. You see the color of the world, sand, linen, sun, river, all blending into one calm palette. The villagers move with grace, as if their bodies remember an ancient dance. Each gesture, pouring water, folding cloth, tying rope, kneading dough, belongs to a rhythm greater than themselves. It is the rhythm of life beside the river. As midday nears, the light grows stronger. Children chase each other through narrow lanes, their laughter echoing between the walls. A dog barks once, and the sound ripples like a pebble across still water. From the temple hill, the faint sound of a sistrum, a sacred rattle, drifts down. It shimmers in the air, reminding all who hear it that the gods watch gently, even in daylight. A young man carrying bundles of papyrus passes by. He nods to an old woman weaving mats in her doorway. She blesses him softly. May your steps follow the river's kindness. He smiles, continues walking. Simple words, but they hold the weight of tradition, the warmth of belonging. In the quiet hours after the meal, the village slows again. The heat presses gently on the rooftops. Shadows stretch long and still. Some lie down to rest. Others sit under palm trees and speak in low tones. The river glides by, steady and calm, its surface a mirror of sky. A fisherman naps beside his boat, his hands still dusty with salt. A child nearby traces circles in the sand with a stick. A woman dips her feet in the water, eyes half closed. The world breathes evenly, a shared heartbeat beneath the afternoon sun. Farther down the bank, a traveler stops to drink. He kneels, cups water in his hands, and watches it slip through his fingers. He looks toward the houses, the smoke, the laughter, the stillness, and feels for a brief moment that he has glimpsed the soul of Egypt. It is not found in temples alone, nor in the gold of kings. It lives here, in the soft clatter of pottery, in the smell of bread, in the quiet rhythm of people who rise with the sun and sleep with the moon. The day leans toward evening. The light turns amber, and the river catches fire beneath the sky. Voices rise once more, calls to return, to eat, to rest. The same sounds as every day, and yet each feels new. For life by the Nile does not chase greatness. It celebrates endurance, the peace of repetition, the calm of knowing that tomorrow will come the same. And that is enough. Slowly, softly, calmly, gently, the sun bows to the horizon, and the homes by the river glow like lanterns of clay and memory.
The afternoon light begins to soften, casting long amber lines across the village. The air hums with a gentle stillness, a time between labor and rest, between the heat of day and the whisper of evening. In a shaded courtyard near the river, a potter sits before his wheel. His hands are steady, his breath slow. The clay turns beneath his fingers, earth drawn from the banks of the Nile, mixed with water, touched by time. He leans forward slightly, eyes focused on the spinning form. A simple vessel takes shape, rising and narrowing with each careful motion. Around him, the scent of wet clay and smoke lingers. The sound of the wheel turning, soft, rhythmic, fills the air like the heartbeat of creation. A young apprentice watches nearby, kneeling beside a row of finished pots. He studies every movement, the gentle pressure of thumb and palm, the tilt of wrist that brings symmetry. The master speaks rarely. When he does, his words are quiet, like the wind through reeds. "Clay remembers," he says. "It holds the hand that shapes it." The boy nods, his fingers unconsciously tracing patterns in the dust. He does not yet understand the depth of the phrase, but he feels it, that sense of continuity, of something ancient living in simple work. Across the village, under the open sky, a group of stonemasons gather near a half-built wall. Blocks of limestone lie stacked neatly beside them, their surfaces pale and rough. The men work slowly, each stroke of the chisel deliberate and calm. The sound, sharp, clear, echoing, mingles with the distant murmur of the river. One mason hums as he works, a tune older than words. It rises and falls with each strike, a song of patience and purpose. Dust clings to his arms like golden powder. When he pauses to wipe his brow, he smiles. There is no rush. The stone will wait. Further along the path, a jeweler sits beneath a linen canopy. Tiny tools glint beside him. He holds a piece of copper wire between his fingers, twisting it with care around a small bead of turquoise. The sunlight catches the stone, and it glows like a drop of the sky itself. He works in silence, save for the faint scrape of metal against stone. Every motion precise, every breath measured. When a customer approaches, a young woman carrying a basket of figs, he lifts his head and smiles softly. There is kindness in the exchange, no haste, no bargaining. He offers him a simple necklace,
and she places a small loaf of bread beside him in trade. Both bow their heads in thanks. In another courtyard, weavers pull at the threads of linen stretched on wooden looms. The pattern flows slowly, white, tan, faint traces of blue. The sound of weaving is like rain against reeds, gentle, rhythmic, eternal. A woman dips her fingers into a jar of indigo dye. She tests the color, watches it stain her skin dark as dusk. She smiles faintly, knowing it will fade by tomorrow. All beauty in this world is meant to pass. Beside her, a small child plays with scraps of thread, tying them into knots, pretending to weave his own tapestry. The mother glances at him with soft amusement, then returns to her rhythm. Imagine the air here, thick with the scent of earth, smoke, and pigment. You can almost hear the layers of labor, the turning wheel, the tap of chisel, the hiss of kiln fire, the soft brush of cloth against skin. Each sound blending into the next, a quiet symphony of creation. And yet nothing feels hurried. Each craftsperson moves as though time itself breathes through them. Work is not burden, it is meditation, a way to honor the gods, the river, and the day. As evening approaches, the sky turns bronze, then rose. Shadows lengthen across the walls. The potter removes his last vessel from the wheel and places it beside the others. He examines them not for perfection, but for truth. The small imperfections that prove a human touch. The mason sets down his hammer, brushes dust from his arms, and runs a hand along the newly finished wall. It feels warm, alive. He nods once to himself. Work done well is its own prayer. The weaver ties off the final thread and stretches her back with a sigh. The fabric glows in the slanting light, as though it has captured the day within its folds. The jeweler closes his box of stones, each one gleaming faintly before fading into shadow. He lifts his face to the breeze, smelling the river, hearing the faint chorus of frogs awakening in the distance. As the sun dips below the horizon, a soft quiet settles over the workshops. The torches are lit, their flames flickering gold against the clay walls. Children run between courtyards, laughing softly. Mothers call them home. The craftsmen wash their hands, rubbing away dust, leaving traces of color on the water. The day's labor dissolves like pigment in the stream. The potter looks toward the fading sky and whispers a small thanks, not to a god, but to the clay itself, for yielding, for becoming, for remembering his touch. He sets the last pot beside the others, perfect in its simplicity. A circle within a circle, a moment within eternity. The night descends again. Smoke from the kilns drifts upward, mixing with the stars. The air smells of earth and fire, the scent of creation and rest. In this quiet world by the river, the beauty of life is not carved in gold or stone, but in hands. Hands that shape, build, weave, and mend. Hands that turn dust into form, silence into song. Slowly, softly, calmly, gently, the world exhales, and the craftsmen sleep beside their work, dreaming of clay that turns to light.
Morning returns like a soft whisper. The sky blushes faintly above the horizon, a pale gold melting into blue.
Along the riverbank, the light glitters upon the water, and the laughter of children drifts through the reeds. Their voices rise and fall like birdsong. Bare feet splash through the shallows. Small hands toss pebbles into the current, watching each circle of ripples expand and fade. The Nile accepts it all, the sound, the movement, the joy, as though it has been waiting for this moment. The air smells of wet clay and sunlight. Every breeze carries the scent of grain and the sweetness of fruit trees. It is the scent of home and of youth. Near a cluster of mud brick homes, a group of boys roll hoops made of woven reeds. They chase them down the dusty path, laughing, shouting softly, their linen tunics fluttering behind them like wings. A dog runs beside them, ears flapping, tail high. One boy stumbles, falls into the sand, then bursts out laughing. The others join him, their laughter echoing down the alley. There is no scolding, no rush, only the simple rhythm of play, timeless, innocent, free. By the water's edge, two girls kneel beside a shallow pool. They shape small figures from clay, birds, boats, little cats. Their fingers work carefully, mimicking the potters they've watched from doorways. The clay stains their skin, cool and smooth beneath the sun. When they finish, they set their tiny creations upon a flat stone to dry. One girl leans close and whispers, "These are for the gods of the river, so they'll watch us while we sleep." The other nods solemnly. For children of the Nile, every act of creation is a kind of prayer, innocent and pure. Farther along the shore, a young boy helps his father mend a small fishing net. He squints against the glare of the sun, his small fingers fumbling with the cords. The father watches quietly, then reaches out to guide him. "Not too tight," he murmurs. "The river breathes, and so must the net." The boy nods, and this time his fingers move more gently. When they finish, the father places a hand upon his head, then points toward the horizon. "See that line where the sky meets the water? That's where tomorrow begins." The boy smiles. The words feel like a secret. In the fields nearby, children carry bundles of reeds to their mothers. Their laughter ripples across the land like wind through wheat. A girl balances a jar of water on her head, walking slowly, carefully, her friends clapping in rhythm to her steps. When she reaches the shade of a palm, she grins and bows dramatically. The others cheer. A mother watches from a distance, smiling softly. In their play, she sees her own childhood, a circle unbroken, life renewing itself like the river's flow. Imagine standing among them, the sun warm upon your shoulders, the sand soft beneath your feet. You hear the splash of oars from distant boats, the rustle of palm fronds, the laughter that never ends. Each sound carries the pulse of a world at peace. No noise of machines, no walls of stone, only the open rhythm of earth and sky, and the hearts of children beating gently in between. As midday grows bright, the games slow down. Children sit in the shade, sharing bread and fruit. A boy strums a small lyre made from string and gourd. The melody is simple, 3 notes that rise, then fall, but it fills the air with softness. One of the younger girls hums along, eyes half closed, head resting on her knees. The others listen quietly. In their stillness there is beauty, in their laughter, peace. Later, when the sun begins to sink, the children return home. They walk barefoot along the dusty paths, holding hands, their shadows stretching long behind them. The village glows in the fading light. Mothers call their names from doorways. Fathers rinse nets and tools by the river. The air cools. The color of the world softens, gold to amber, amber to dusk. The children wash their hands in bowls of water, the day's dust dissolving away. The smell of dinner, lentils, herbs, baked bread, fills the courtyards. And as they eat together beneath the first stars, the laughter begins again, softer now, like a lullaby carried on the wind. When the meal ends, mothers tell stories by lamplight, tales of gods and heroes, of animals who speak, of stars that guide travelers home. The children listen wide-eyed, their breaths slow and even. Some curl up beside their parents, others lie on mats of woven reeds, heads resting on folded cloth. Outside, the frogs begin to sing. The air cools. The Nile shimmers in the distance. The mothers' voices fade, the lamps grow dim, and the children of the Nile drift into dreams. Dreams of sunlight, of water, of endless sky. Slowly, softly, calmly, gently, the night closes its arms around them. The laughter that began at dawn becomes silence, and the silence becomes peace. Tomorrow will bring the same rhythm again, the games, the work, the wonder. For in Egypt, childhood is not a fleeting moment, but a season that never truly ends.
The day folds into evening once more. The sun lowers behind the western hills, and the sky glows with soft bands of crimson and gold. The light touches the water gently, turning the Nile into a long ribbon of fire that slowly cools to silver. The air changes from warmth to whisper. The sound of the day fades, and a new rhythm rises. The music of evening begins. It is not one song, but many, woven together by the breath of the river. Along the shore, the fishermen hum as they pull their nets ashore. Their voices rise and fall with each motion, low and melodic, as if speaking directly to the Nile itself. The nets glisten with water and moonlight. Fish scales shimmer like stars scattered upon the sand. A man hums a tune passed down from his grandfather. No words remain, only the melody, steady, circular, endless. Another voice joins in, then another, until the rhythm becomes communal, the sound of labor turned to worship. The wind carries their song downstream, where others pick it up unconsciously, singing different tunes that somehow fit together as if the river conducts them all. Farther inland, from the courtyards and rooftops, soft notes of flutes begin to float through the air. A boy sits cross-legged on a woven mat, his reed flute resting lightly in his hands. He closes his eyes, breathes slowly, and lets the sound drift. The melody is delicate, a pattern of rise and rest, like the wings of a heron gliding above the water. Nearby, an old man listens, smiling. He taps his staff against the floor, keeping time with his heart. Music in this land is not performance, it is prayer made audible. In another part of the village, a group of women gather by the riverbank. They sit in a circle, their hair braided with small shells that glint in the fading light. They begin to sing as they wash linen in the shallows, their hands moving in rhythm with the current. The song tells of the moon's path across the sky, of the return of the flood, of love and waiting. Their voices overlapped softly, creating a harmony that feels as natural as breathing. Between verses, they laugh quietly. One woman lifts her face to the sky and whispers, "May the river always remember our names." The others nod, and the laughter turns again to melody. The sound of drums soon follows, not loud, not wild, but gentle and slow. At the edge of the market square, a man strikes a skin drum with his palms, each beat like the pulse of the earth itself. Children gather near, swaying with the rhythm. The glow from the torches dances across their faces. A woman joins him, plucking the strings of a small harp. Her voice rises above the drumbeat, soft, tender, steady. The song speaks of night returning, of stars lighting the way home, of peace after labor. When she finishes, there is silence, not from disinterest, but from reverence. The moment feels whole. Imagine standing on the shore as all these sounds blend together. The hum of fishermen, the flutes on the rooftops, the laughter of women by the waterbank, the slow beat of drums under the torchlight. Each sound separate, yet together they form something greater, a single song carried by the Nile. The river listens. The air listens. Even the stars seem to sway. As darkness deepens, the city of Alexandria, far downstream, begins to shimmer. From its harbor, music drifts faintly over the waves, the echo of lyres and tambourines, the distant chorus of sailors at rest. The lighthouse flame circles slowly, casting light upon the water in rhythmic turns, like the beat of an enormous drum of fire. Every rotation marks another verse in the song of the night. The water glows briefly, then darkens again. The rhythm continues. In the villages, families gather for the evening meal. Someone hums softly while passing bread. A child claps in time, then giggles when the rhythm falters. The room fills with quiet laughter. Afterward, they sit outside their homes. The sound of frogs and crickets become part of the music, a natural accompaniment that never misses a note. The moon climbs higher. Its light turns everything silver. Voices grow fewer, but no less beautiful. Even silence has melody here. A priest walking along the riverbank stops to listen. He hears the faint song of the fishermen, the echo of flutes, the distant drums. He closes his eyes. To him it is all one prayer, not directed toward the gods above, but to the life that flows around him. He whispers, "All that breathes sings." Then he continues walking, his sandals brushing softly against the sand. The music lingers long after the people fall quiet. The river holds it, carrying it past fields and reeds, past temples and open skies, until it fades into the hum of water against stone. Somewhere a torch flickers. Somewhere a flute sighs its final note, and then nothing but the night. Still, if you listen closely, you can hear it even now, the gentle rhythm of Egypt's heart. Slowly, softly, calmly, gently, the night sings itself to sleep.
Night falls once more, and the river becomes a mirror. The moon glides upon its surface like a silent barge, carrying the light of heaven down the ancient current. The stars tremble softly in the water, each reflection moving with the breath of the earth. To those who live by its banks, the Nile is not merely water. It is memory. It is voice. It is the heart that has never stopped beating. The old say the river remembers. It carries whispers from the past, echoes of kings and farmers, of lovers, builders, dreamers. Every drop once touched someone's hands, and so the river knows every soul. On this quiet night, you can almost hear the stories drifting just beneath the surface. They move like slow waves, rising and falling between the reeds. The air hums softly with their presence. A fisherman sitting on the shore lowers his lantern. The flame sways gently, its reflection floating beside the moon. He watches the ripples spread outward and imagines he sees faces there, not ghosts, but memories, the people of long ago, smiling beneath the surface, waiting to be remembered. He whispers a simple greeting. The wind answers with a sigh. Long ago, they say, the Nile was born from the tears of a goddess, tears of love, tears of longing. Each drop became a stream, and each stream joined another, until all her sorrow turned into life. And because of this, the people of Egypt learned to cherish both joy and grief, for each gave birth to the other. They believed the river carried messages between worlds, between the land of the living and the fields beyond the horizon. When someone passed away, flowers and candles were set upon the current. The light would drift away slowly, as if guiding the soul toward the stars. Even now, when the wind is still, you can imagine those small flames floating downstream, tiny suns returning to the sky. Some speak of the river as a god himself, a mighty being who flows through time, older than any temple, wiser than any king. His name once whispered in songs, Hapi, the bringer of abundance, the keeper of rhythm. At the season of flood, people would gather at the banks to offer bread and honey, singing hymns to welcome his return. They thanked him not only for water, but for the order he brought, for without him, life unraveled. Even now, though no ritual remains, the rhythm endures. When the river rises, hearts lift with it. When it falls, voices soften in patience. The people have changed, the faith has shifted, but the Nile still speaks. Imagine the moonlight on the surface tonight. Every shimmer a word, every current a sentence written by unseen hands. The river writes its own scripture, not in ink, but in reflection. You lean close to the water, and for a moment you see not yourself, but fragments of time, boats of cedar drifting toward Thebes, priests lighting torches in silent processions, children laughing by the reeds. Each image appears, then fades, like dreams dissolving at dawn. The water does not hold them for long. It only reminds you they once were. Farther downstream, a group of travelers rests for the night. They sit by a small fire, their faces illuminated in soft orange glow. An elder among them begins to speak. His voice carries slowly through the air, steady as the current. He says, "They say the river flows backwards once a year, when time forgets its path. For one night, the water retraces its memory, and the world feels young again. He smiles faintly and throws a handful of herbs into the fire, and the air fills with a fragrant smoke, sweet, ancient, eternal. The frogs and crickets take up their song again. The stars shift slowly above. Somewhere an owl calls once from the palms. The river keeps flowing, its sound both near and infinite. You begin to realize the truth the ancients always knew. The Nile is not simply a river in Egypt. It is a reflection of life itself, its rise, its fall, its return. Each wave mirrors the breath of the world. Each sound carries the echo of beginning. Even silence has depth here. As the night deepens, the fisherman gathers his nets. The lantern burns low, its flame a faint halo against the dark. He glances once more at the water and sees the moon rippling softly. He whispers to it, "Carry my dreams to morning." Then he turns toward home, his steps slow, his heart quiet. Behind him the Nile flows on, endless and serene. It will be here tomorrow, and the day after, and for every life to come. Because the river remembers, and in remembering, it keeps the world alive. Slowly, softly, calmly, gently, the moon fades higher, and the reflections melt into the current. The night, once more, becomes whole.
The night stretches wide above the desert. The stars burn brighter here, far from the noise of cities, far from the flicker of lamps and the hum of the riverbanks. Their light falls gently upon the stones, ancient and unmoving, and upon the quiet monuments that still hold the breath of kings. The pyramids rest beneath the heavens, silent and eternal. Their edges glow faintly beneath the moon, each block of limestone holding both shadow and memory. For thousands of years they have stood as the guardians of dreams. And tonight, as the wind moves softly through the sands, it feels as if time itself pauses to listen. The pharaohs once ruled under this very sky. They believed each star was a soul, each constellation a path toward the afterlife. When they looked upward, they did not see distance, they saw home. In the great halls of their palaces, priests would chart the movements of the stars, tracing divine messages across the heavens. A flicker of light meant harvest. A shadow near Orion meant the rise of new floods. The cosmos was a living script, and Egypt was its reader. Even now, if you stand beneath this sky, you feel the same pull, that quiet awe before the infinite. A lone torch burns near the base of the pyramid. Its flame sways in the breeze, a fragile echo of the sun. Beside it, a guard sits with his back to the stone, watching the horizon. He listens to the desert breathe, the faint hiss of sand shifting, the whisper of wind through the dry grass. Above him, the moon slides higher. It paints the limestone silver, revealing carvings worn smooth by centuries. Names once carved in prayer now read like music, a lullaby of stone. He runs his fingers across the ancient surface, feeling the grooves, wondering whose hands made them. For a moment, he feels connected, a thread stretched between himself and those long gone. Inside the great tombs, silence reigns deeper still. The air is cool, thick with the scent of dust and earth. Golden paintings shimmer in the torchlight. Scenes of boats sailing across stars, of gods with falcon heads and hands outstretched. On one wall, a depiction of the pharaoh sleeping beneath the heavens. Around him, the goddess Nut stretches her body across the sky, her arms and legs forming the arch of the universe. Her stars shine like jewels upon her skin. It is said that each night she swallows the sun, and each morning gives it birth again. Even sleep in Egypt is a promise of return. Imagine standing within that chamber, the weight of the world pressing down through the stone, the silence vast enough to feel alive. The flicker of flame casts shadows upon the walls. The pharaoh's painted eyes seem to follow, calm and knowing. You realize then that these were not monuments to death, but to continuity. A belief that nothing truly ends, that each night is only the world's way of resting. Outside, the wind sighs softly against the entrance, like a lullaby for the ages. Far beyond the tombs, the desert opens wide, an ocean of gold turns silver beneath the moon. Nomads travel its edges, their fires small and bright in the distance. One elder looks up at the sky, his face weathered and still. He tells the younger ones beside him, "The pharaohs sleep beneath those stars, but the stars are not their prison, they are their dreams." The others listen quietly. No one speaks for a long while. The crackle of the fire becomes the only sound. Down by the river, the reflection of those same stars tremble upon the water. A farmer lifts his eyes from his field and smiles. He does not think of kings or gods, only of the constancy of light. The stars above his field are the same ones that watched over pharaohs and workers alike. He feels no difference between them. In that stillness, the line between ruler and peasant fades. All are children beneath the same eternal dome, breathing the same night air, listening to the same river. The temples, now quiet and half-lit, stand like instruments waiting for a forgotten song. In their courtyards, statues rise toward the sky, arms open, faces serene. The wind moves through their stone lips, creating the faintest hum, as though the gods still whisper in sleep. A single owl glides overhead. Its wings cut silently through the darkness. It circles once over the pyramid, then vanishes toward the desert. The world is still. The sky watches. Somewhere in that vast stillness, you imagine the pharaohs dreaming, not of conquest, nor gold, nor power, but of balance, of the river flowing without end, of fields green after the flood, of their people sleeping peacefully under the stars. That was the dream of Egypt. Not eternity for one, but continuity for all. And perhaps, even now, that dream lives in the way the Nile still runs, in the way the sun still returns, in the way the stars still keep their vigil. The moon begins to sink toward the west. A pale glow touches the desert edge, promising dawn once more. The guard by the pyramid rises, dusts the sand from his robe, and bows his head briefly toward the stone. Then he walks toward the river, his footsteps quiet upon the earth. The first birds stir in the distance. The night sighs its final breath, and the dreams of the pharaohs drift gently away, carried on the wind into the light of morning. Slowly, softly,
Calmly, gently, the stars fade, and the sky opens its eyes.
The world has quieted once again. The river moves without hurry. The stars stand motionless above the land, their light silver and ancient, falling softly over rooftops and fields alike. It is the hour when even the wind hesitates, when the earth itself seems to listen. In this stillness, Egypt breathes differently, slowly, deeply, as though remembering something sacred. The art of silence begins here, not as emptiness, but as presence. In a courtyard near the temple walls, an old scribe sits alone beside a fading lamp. His papyrus lies open, ink drying at the tip of his pen. He has written enough for the day. Now he simply listens. The faint sound of water dripping from a clay pot, the quiet hiss of a distant flame, the rhythm of his own breath, all of it blends into one gentle symphony. He closes his eyes, and for the first time in hours, he feels the full weight of stillness. He smiles, for to him, silence is not the absence of sound. It is the space where meaning lives. Elsewhere, on the roof of a home by the river, a young woman looks toward the stars. Her hands are folded in her lap, her linen robe moving slightly with the night breeze. She has finished her work, the jars filled, the lamps extinguished. Now her world is made only of moonlight and thought. She does not pray aloud. She simply breathes. And in the rhythm of that breath, she feels connected to everything, to the river that carries songs, to the sand that holds memory, to the sky that never changes. This too is a form of prayer, one spoken without words. In the marketplace, long empty since dusk, a single lantern burns beside a column. Its flame dances softly, casting the faint shadow of baskets and empty stalls. The ground still carries traces of the day's footsteps, patterns drawn in dust. Now all is quiet. Yet, if one listens closely, there is still life here. A whisper of wind through the reed mats, the soft crackle of the dying flame, a faint echo of laughter caught between the walls. Even silence remembers sound. The priests say that the gods hear clearest in stillness, that when the mind grows quiet, truth rises like a lotus upon water. So each night before sleep, many sit in silence, not to ask, not to demand, but simply to feel the breath of existence moving through them. The old woman in her doorway, watching the stars, the fisherman beside his boat, listening to the tide, the child curled against his mother's arm, breathing evenly in dreams, all of them part of the same quiet harmony. The night unites them, not through words, but through peace. Imagine standing among them now, the air cool against your skin, the faint hum of crickets in the reeds. No need to speak, no need to move. You feel the same stillness that the ancients felt, the same vast calm that lies beneath every moment of life. Even your heartbeat seems slower, each breath deeper, wider, freer. This is the wisdom of the night, to remind you that peace is not something to find, but something to remember. Far across the water, a monk walks along the edge of the desert. He carries no torch, no scroll,
only a small bundle of herbs for the sick. He walks in silence, letting the stars guide him. In the quiet, he hears everything: the shifting of sand underfoot, the whisper of his own steps, the faint pulse of the river behind him. He realizes that each sound, each breath, is part of one great stillness that never truly breaks. He stops for a moment, looks up at the moon, and smiles. The silence speaks back. In the great temple of Thebes, priests extinguish the last lamps of the night. Their movements are slow, ceremonial, graceful. Each flame bowed out gently with a whisper of breath. Smoke rises in thin threads, curling toward the high ceiling where paintings of stars still shine faintly. The hall falls into darkness, but not emptiness. It feels full, full of unseen presence, of quiet reverence. One priest kneels before the altar and remains there long after the others have gone. He listens, not for voices, but for understanding. In that silence, he feels the whole of Egypt breathing with him. Silence, they say, is the teacher of balance. It reminds the strong to be gentle, the busy to be patient, and the fearful to trust the rhythm of life. It teaches through the absence of noise, but the abundance of awareness. Here in this land of wind and river, people have always known that wisdom grows not in words, but in the spaces between them. The pauses in a song, the breath before a prayer, the stillness before dawn, all are parts of the same lesson, that peace is not given, it is cultivated. And so, as the night deepens, the river slows, the torches fade, the air cools to a whisper. Across Egypt, from temple to village, every soul rests beneath the same vast hush. Even the stars seem gentler now, their light softer, as though honoring the quiet below. You breathe with them, in rhythm with the world. There is nothing left to say, only the truth that silence has always spoken. Be still. You are alive, and the world is at peace. Slowly, softly, calmly, gently, the night closes its eyes.
The first light returns, quietly, as if the sun itself hesitates to wake the world. A pale shimmer spreads across the horizon, where night and river meet in silence. The stars fade, one by one, like candles being gently blown out by invisible hands. The Nile, dark a moment ago, now glows with the faint blush of morning. Its surface ripples softly, mirroring the slow awakening of the land. Every sound, a whisper, a sigh, a breath of new beginnings. The air is cool, dew clings to reeds and palms. The scent of wet earth and wildflowers rises with the mist. Far in the distance, the cry of a heron greets the dawn. From the small homes near the shore, thin lines of smoke curl upward again. The first fires of the day are lit. A woman steps outside, carrying a bowl of water to her threshold. She sprinkles a few drops toward the east, a gesture older than memory. It is not a ritual of grandeur, but of gratitude. "Welcome back," she whispers, "to the light, to the day, to the promise of another chance. The river itself seems to stir. A slow current catches the sunlight, scattering reflections across the walls of nearby courtyards. A fisherman, already awake, unties his small boat from the post. He steps barefoot into the water, feeling its coolness, its gentle pull. He pushes off, and the boat glides quietly away. Behind him, the village begins to hum. Voices rise softly, hands move, doors open. The rhythm of life resumes, the same melody as every morning, yet somehow new. In the fields beyond, farmers gather at the edge of the canals. Their tools rest on their shoulders, their faces turn toward the light. The sun, climbing slowly above the horizon, bathes everything in gold. Grain sway lightly in the breeze. Birds dip between the rows, their wings glinting like pieces of bronze. The people begin their day not with noise, but with movement, steady, measured, peaceful. A song rises among them, low and melodic, a hymn of gratitude to the river. Their words are simple. We rise with the sun, we work with the earth, we rest with the stars. And in that simplicity, the wisdom of generations lives on. Down by the shore, children run again, their laughter bright against the still air. They chase after the boats, their reflections shimmering beside them. Every splash, every cry adds a note to the morning's quiet symphony. A dog barks once, a donkey brays in reply, and somewhere a baker laughs as he pulls warm bread from the oven. Steam rises like incense. The scent of flour and honey drifts across the water. Life returns in color and sound, but never loses its calm. Imagine standing there, the light brushing your skin, the air soft with warmth. You hear the murmur of the Nile, steady and endless, like the world's own heartbeat. Around you, everything moves together, river, wind, flame, voice, each part of a single perfect rhythm. This is renewal, not a grand awakening, but a gentle reminder. The night will always return, and so will the dawn. A priest walks from the temple steps, his white robe luminous in the early light. He carries a small vessel of milk and honey, offering it to the river. The liquid spills slowly into the current, dissolving into brightness. He bows his head and whispers, "May this day be kind." Nearby, a child imitates his gesture, dropping a handful of flower petals into the water. They float for a moment, then drift away, becoming part of the current. The priest smiles. Wisdom, he knows, is not something to be taught. It is remembered through kindness. As the sun climbs higher, the desert's edge begins to shimmer. From the dunes, a warm wind blows toward the river, carrying the scent of myrrh and dry stone. It brushes against the palms, through the village, and finally over the fields. The air feels alive again. The people look up, their eyes bright. For them, dawn is not just the return of light. It is proof that the world keeps its promises. Every morning, without fail, the sky begins again. By mid-morning, the Nile shines like molten gold. Sails drift lazily across the surface, their shadows moving slow and graceful. Women gather laundry in the sun, men tend to tools, children chase dragonflies through the grass. All of it, ordinary, beautiful, eternal. The land has seen empires rise and fall, but this moment, this quiet balance between night and day has never changed. And perhaps that is Egypt's greatest wisdom. That life renews itself not through conquest, but through constancy, through tending and waiting and peace. As the morning brightens, a heron takes flight from the riverbank. Its wings catch the light, its shadow gliding silently across the water. It rises higher, circling once, then disappears into the blue. The village hums below, the river gleams, and the world feels whole again. Slowly, softly, calmly, gently, the Nile carries the light forward toward another day, another story, another dream.
The day drifts toward its quiet end. The sun begins its slow descent, painting the sky in shades of amber, rose, and violet. Shadows grow longer across the fields. The air cools, and the scent of the river deepens. Warm clay, wet reed, and a whisper of myrrh. The people move gently now. Work has ceased. The earth exhales, and soon voices will rise again, not in labor, but in story. In every village, as the light softens, families gather near their doors. A low table, a clay lamp, a simple meal shared between hands. Children sit cross-legged, eyes wide and bright. Elders lean back upon woven mats, their faces touched by the last gold of the sun. This is the hour when stories return, when time itself slows to make room for memory. The first voice begins softly, a mother speaking to her child. Once, long ago, the Nile was young. It sang to the stars, and they sang back. From their song came the rhythm of life, and from that rhythm, the world was born. The child listens, eyes half closing, already drifting between dream and waking. Elsewhere, an old fisherman tells of the day he saw lights dancing upon the water, tiny flames that moved without wind. He believes they were spirits of those who built the great cities, still wandering home. His companions smile, but no one corrects him. For in Egypt, myth and memory share the same truth. The night gathers their words, folding them gently into the air like incense. At the edge of the village, a group of young men and women sit near a fire. One plucks a lyre, the strings glowing orange in the light. He sings softly, his voice carrying through the palms. The river knows our names. The stars keep our stories. When we are gone, the night will remember. The others hum along. Their harmony is imperfect, but beautiful. The fire crackles in time with their song, and for a while everything feels suspended, balanced between sound and silence, life and memory. In the courtyard of a scribe's home, a man unrolls a strip of papyrus. The ink is dark and fresh. He writes carefully by lamplight, each symbol a promise. He copies tales of gods, records of kings,
But between those lines he adds something of his own, a small note for the future. The heart remembers what words forget. He blows gently on the ink to dry it, and then looks toward the window. Outside, the moon has begun to rise. Its light rests on his hands. He smiles quietly, knowing that even if his name fades, his words will drift like the river, beyond his time. Imagine sitting among them, the warmth of the fire touching your face, the river breathing softly nearby. You listen to their stories, feeling each one as both familiar and new. Some are myths, some are truth, and some are something between, a space where memory becomes music. You begin to understand that Egypt was never built by stone alone. It was built by stories, spoken, sung, whispered, remembered. Each tale a thread woven into the endless tapestry of night. A grandmother lifts her hand and traces shapes in the air as she speaks. Her voice trembles, but her words flow steady as the Nile. There is a story in every star, a name in every wave. When you speak them, they return to life. The children repeat her words softly, turning them into a small song. Their voices echo, carried by the night breeze over the roofs toward the water. The river listens. It always has. Down by the shore, the fishermen light their lamps once more. The glow reflects on the ripples, each one a moving fragment of gold. The men speak quietly of their fathers and grandfathers, remembering the times they fished together, the stories told beneath the same moon. Their laughter is gentle, their silence even gentler. For memory here is not sorrow, it is continuation, the living proof that what was once loved is never truly lost. Farther inland, in a courtyard shaded by palm leaves, a young poet hums to himself. He repeats a line he has written over and over again, letting its rhythm settle into his breathing. Nothing ends when it is remembered. He sets his reed pen down, leans back, and looks at the stars, each one a light from the past, still traveling, still reaching. He thinks of his ancestors, of kings and builders, of children and dreamers. He whispers, "May I be one small note in their song." The hours pass, the lamps burn lower, the stories slow to murmurs. In every home, the listeners drift into sleep, their dreams carrying echoes of the words just spoken. And above them, the stars shimmer quietly, their own stories written in light. The night remembers them all. The river hums them back into the world. And so, nothing fades, not truly. Slowly, softly, calmly, gently, the stories fold into silence, and the silence becomes song once more. The night deepens once more. The stars burn softly over the land, their light falling like ancient dust upon the Nile. The river glows in silver calm, its surface neither still nor moving, but something between. In that gentle motion lies eternity, a rhythm too vast for a single lifetime, yet tender enough to cradle each passing day. Those who live beside it know time here does not flow forward, it circles. Like the water, it returns. Along the riverbank, an old man sits with his back against a palm tree. His eyes are half closed. He listens to the water, to the faint hum of crickets, to the silence that binds them all together. His grandson sits nearby, legs folded, head resting on his knees. "Grandfather," the boy whispers, "where does the river go?" The old man smiles faintly. "Everywhere," he says, "and nowhere." He scoops a handful of water, lets it slip through his fingers. "This drop may reach the sea, but one day the clouds will bring it home again." The boy nods, watching the ripples fade. He understands without words. Time, too, is like the Nile, departing, returning, eternal. Across the water, the moon lowers behind the dunes. Its reflection shivers upon the surface, breaking into fragments of light. Each fragment seems to carry a memory, a temple, a song, a name whispered and forgotten. Yet the river remembers all. The currents weave those fragments together, carrying them onward, not to lose them, but to renew them. For nothing that enters the Nile truly disappears. It becomes part of its story. And so the people too live not as moments, but as ripples in an endless flow. In the quiet hours before dawn, the priests of the river shrine gather for prayer. They kneel by the water's edge, their torches casting halos upon the mist. They do not speak. They only breathe, in rhythm with the current. When the head priest finally lifts his hands, his voice is no louder than a sigh. Life flows. Time follows. All returns. The others bow their heads. They pour offerings of oil and milk into the water, watching the ripples widen and fade. Each circle merges into the next until the surface is smooth again. The ceremony ends not with music, but with silence, the kind that feels complete. Imagine standing there beside them. The scent of the river fills the air, earthy, sweet, eternal. You feel the moisture on your skin, the faint vibration beneath your feet. It is the same breath that moved through this land thousands of years ago, and it will still move long after every word and monument has turned to dust. The river endures. It carries more than water. It carries memory, the memory of creation itself. A traveler walks along the embankment, his cloak brushing the tall grass. He has no destination, only the pull of the river beside him. Each step feels familiar, as though he has walked this path before in another life. He looks to the horizon, where dawn waits just beyond the dark. The water gleams faintly. He stops, kneels, and touches the surface. It feels cool, alive. He whispers, "Remember me." The current moves, folding the sound into itself. Somewhere downstream, a fisherman might hear it as a ripple against his boat, and so the traveler's voice continues, changed, carried, eternal. The people of Egypt never feared the river's depth. They trusted it. To them, it was not only water, but the pulse of the world. It taught them patience, reminding them that all things have their season, the flood, the harvest, the rest. And just as the river returns each year, so does hope. Even in the hardest times, they would say, "The Nile will rise again." It always did. The river's lesson was simple. Nothing is ever truly lost. It only changes its form. The stars begin to fade. The eastern sky turns pale. The river brightens, catching the first light of morning. Mist lifts from its surface, rising like smoke from a sacred fire. A heron steps carefully through the shallows, its reflection moving with grace upon the water. The sound of distant bells marks the new day. Voices stir in the villages once more. But even as the world awakes, the river keeps its slow rhythm, ancient, steady, calm. It does not rush toward the future. It flows with it. In every ripple, there are echoes of those who once stood here, priests and poets, workers and queens, dreamers and children. Their voices merge into the same song, carried endlessly along the current. The Nile has outlived empires, but it has never outlived love, for love is what keeps memory alive, and memory is what keeps eternity kind. The river flows, the people rest, the stories remain. Slowly, softly, calmly, gently, the night becomes morning once more.
The night has returned again, soft as breath, wide as eternity. The river lies still beneath the sky, its waters glimmering faintly like molten glass. The air is cool, scented with stone and jasmine. No wind, no voices, only the gentle hum of the world asleep. This is the hour between heartbeats, when time itself seems to rest. From the far banks, the silhouettes of palm trees ripple against the moonlight. Each leaf sways slowly, as though moved by dreams rather than wind. The water glows with scattered reflections, stars above and stars below, their light merging into one vast ocean of silver. Somewhere, a torch flickers, its flame small, steady, faithful. Its glow dances on the surface for a moment, then fades softly into the night. Even light here knows how to be quiet. Across the river, the temple roofs shimmer like ghosts of gold. The columns rise, their shadows deep and ancient, carved with stories no one fully remembers. A priest stands on the terrace, his face lifted toward the stars. He says nothing. He doesn't need to. For the gods he serves are not distant. They are present in the stillness, in the rhythm of his breath, in the patient flow of the river beneath him. He lowers his head, and a faint smile touches his lips. Worship, he knows, is not always song or prayer. Sometimes it is simply the act of being, here, now, quietly alive beneath the stars. In a nearby village, a mother sits outside her doorway, her child asleep in her lap. She hums a tune too soft for words, a lullaby older than memory. The rhythm follows the river, slow, gentle, steady. She watches the stars drift between clouds, each one bright and tender. Her mind wanders to her ancestors, to her children's children,
to all those who will one day sit as she does now, beneath the same sky. She realizes that time is not something that passes, it is something that gathers. Like the Nile, it holds everything within it. A fisherman floats midstream in his small boat. The oar rests in his lap. He gazes upward, counting constellations he cannot name. The water rocks him gently, each wave a cradle. The moonlight touches his face, and he feels for a moment weightless. Not body, not thought, just presence. He thinks of nothing, because there is nothing to think. Only the sound of water against wood, and the quiet understanding that the stars above him are the same ones reflected in the river, and the same ones reflected in his eyes. Imagine standing at the shore now, the world around you completely still. You hear your own breath, the distant call of a night bird, the faint hiss of the current. You look upward. The sky opens like a vast scroll, each letter a scar, each constellation a sentence. It feels as though the universe is reading itself aloud through the quiet of the night. You realize how small you are, but not in fear, in wonder, because even the smallest spark of life is part of this same great stillness. Far across the dunes, the desert glows faintly beneath the moon. The sands ripple like waves turned to stone. An old traveler walks there alone, his footsteps leaving soft impressions behind. He pauses on a hilltop, looking back toward the river. From this distance, the Nile appears as a thread of light, weaving through the darkness. He whispers, "So much begins with water and ends with stars." The wind carries his voice away, not lost, just folded into the night. Back by the water, a chorus of frogs begins again. Their song rises slowly, like 1,000 tiny drums marking the pulse of the earth. Crickets join, and the river hums in reply. No instrument could match it. It is the music of the world remembering itself. The stars seem to shimmer brighter, as if swaying to the rhythm. Every sound, every light, every breath, part of one endless hymn. A moment passes, or perhaps an hour. The night does not count such things. It stretches and folds around itself, infinite yet tender. Somewhere in the distance, a temple bell rings once, low and deep. Its echo drifts across the river, fading into the quiet. Then silence again, perfect, complete. In that silence, you understand what the ancients always knew, that peace is not the absence of sound, but the harmony of all things. That every life, like every drop of the Nile, moves toward the same great sea, of light, of memory, of return. The stars gaze down, and the river mirrors them faithfully. Two reflections of eternity meeting in the middle of the night. Slowly, softly, calmly, gently, the world exhales, and the quiet of the stars settles over the Nile.
Now the night grows deeper. The air is still. The river breathes quietly beneath the stars. You have traveled far tonight, through time, through stories, through dreams.
You have walked among temples, listened to songs, watched the river flow beneath the moon. You have felt the warmth of the sun, the silence of the desert, the laughter of children by the shore. And now, it is time to rest. The Nile glimmers softly in the darkness. Its rhythm is slow, ancient, unchanging. It carries everything, past and present, sound and silence, dream and dawn. Somewhere in that flowing water, your footsteps remain. The echoes of your breath, the quiet of your heart. The world is vast, and yet in this stillness, you are part of it all. Listen. The wind has grown faint. The stars shimmer gently above you, their reflections rippling across the water. The earth itself feels at peace. Every sound has softened into calm. Every thought has become quiet light. You are safe here. The Nile watches over you, the same way it has watched over countless souls before. It remembers you, just as it remembers the songs, the prayers, the stories whispered into its current. Breathe slowly. Feel the weight of the day fading from your shoulders. Let the stillness hold you as the Nile holds the sky. You have nothing to carry now, nothing to do, nothing to prove. Only to rest, only to be. Let the night wrap around you like silk. Let your heart drift, light as a reed on the river. Let your mind grow quiet, your breath grow slow. Sleep is near. Peace is already here. The stars look down in silence. The river hums its endless lullaby, and all of Egypt sleeps, from palace to village, from the desert to the sea. Tomorrow will come, as it always does. The light will rise, and the river will flow again. But for now, rest beside history. Rest beside the Nile. And so the night carries on. The story rests. Good night.